Hello world, Chris Pirillo here to report that I've survived week 1 of being a vegan, beginning to lean vegan about 7 days ago. It's been a success. I've made it this far, and I don't feel like I want to turn around. I'm not dissuaded in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I'm finding the path is widening rather than narrowing, the path that I'm walking down in becoming vegan. I don't know if I can officially call myself a vegan, right? Because not only are there different levels of vegan, or at least different versions of vegan, iterations, variations, but I don't know if it's something that happens, you know, after a period of time, if it's just immediate or what. I don't know if I get a card, you know, that they might punch after a certain period of time, and maybe I get like a free Star Wars toy if I fill up that card with punches. But the point is I have begun, and I wanted to give you an update a week into this process, because by and large it is a process, and I decided that I was going to take notes. So if you see me looking away, I'm looking at my notes to make sure I don't miss anything, because there's quite a few things that I want to cover. Probably the biggest surprise in leaning vegan was the generally and overwhelmingly positive reaction from the community when I posted what I posted and said what I said. It seemed to resonate with a few people who were considering possibly walking down the path of being vegan. Maybe they were currently vegetarian, maybe they were, you know, non-vegan at that point. So I was happy to have shared that story and would like to continue to do that, if only to mark this point in time, not just for myself in the process as it you know, continues to evolve, but also potentially for other people who may years from now wonder what my path was like. And everybody's path is going to be different, and I'm sure they'll diverge at some point. But I just want to say I'm very, very grateful that I saw a large amount of positivity from the community. You had a few people here and there who were largely insecure with themselves, you know, trying to, you know, poke holes in you know, throw barbs. But I am largely impervious to that. I can't say that it's because of a dietary change. It's just that you just can peg someone for being largely insecure, and that's the reason they try to take your happiness away from you. I don't yet know what vegan I'm going to be. So yes, there are a lot of different types of vegans, and I'm just learning that. I'm leaning vegan, but I'm probably leaning more towards the whole foods, plant-based vegan, more than anything, for a lot of different reasons that I will, you know, get to in just a moment. But you know, there's nothing wrong with any type of vegan, I don't think. I'm sure everybody's got their own opinion, but everybody's got to make that choice for them. It wasn't very difficult this week, as difficult as you might expect it to be, at least for me. So you might remember I gave up, by and large, processed foods and sugar 20 years ago. That was a difficult transition when I was low-carbing. I was successful with low-carbing to a point. Eventually, everything reverted, and then for the rest of my life, it was a roller coaster of weight gain and weight loss, specifically fat. I don't think I've ever gained or lost a muscle. I don't have much muscle to begin with, and I'm fine with that, at least today. But I think it was more difficult to remove sugar and processed foods from my diet years ago. I kind of grew accustomed to it over time. This time around, it wasn't as much of it. That part wasn't as much of a challenge. But as I said, I'm learning a lot. I'm doing a lot of reading, a lot of listening, a lot of watching. There's knowledge everywhere. You kind of have to cut through the chaff to get to the wheat, if you pardon the expression. But there are a lot of people out there who've generally walked their own path and have shared their own experiences, and that, I think, is more helpful when I hear directly from other people who are doing it, not just, you know, in theory, you know, but actually in practice. And so there are plenty of people sharing their stories, and that's what's going to lead me into a recommendation before I go into some changes this week that I experienced. The person that I guess I've stumbled into and I'm very grateful for having stumbled into him. It was a recommendation, an automated recommendation. Like, no one told me to go check this guy out, but I said, to Diana that, it's probably going to be overwhelming with the amount of information and voices out there. But I found Mike the Vegan somehow. That's M-I-C. That's how he spells his name, or at least his handle, Mike the Vegan. I've watched a few vegan YouTubers. I'm not as interested in watching recipe videos. I might send them on to Diana. She's largely been the cook here in the house, the chef, and always does an amazing job no matter what you put in front of her. It's astounding. She's an absolute wizard in the kitchen. Always has been. But which is helpful, by the way. I'm sure in going this direction, you want your food to taste awesome. And food tastes awesome to begin with, or good food, specifically raw food. But she's really skilled with mixing up ingredients and making magic. So, yeah, Mike the Vegan has really impressed me. I can't say I've watched all of his videos, but I've certainly watched a good chunk of them, enough to know that I would probably follow in his footsteps. He's been a great guiding light. I love how he presents information in such a fashion that he doesn't just, project his perspective. He specifically backs up his assertions with fact, with documentation, with evidence, with not just knowledge, but actual science, right? And then you can see it. You can determine for yourself, what you're going to do with that information, how you're going to assimilate that information. It's not that you can disagree with the information, because it is what it is. You can challenge how the information was presented. I think that's fair. It's a part of that the methodology for any kind of information that can be interpreted a variety of ways. But I find that he's the type of person that I would turn to and trust, because he walks that path, and he shares his experiences and his perspectives in such a fashion that I think if anybody was thinking about it, I would say, don't talk to me, at least at this point in time. I would go directly to Mike. And I've seen a few of them, and I'm not saying he's the best of the best, because honestly, I don't know. I don't know the full range of YouTubers. See, it's a play on words, right? Because tubers, food, vegan. But he and his style are just absolutely like in sync with mine outright. So anyway, that's the recommendation I want to make. One big change this week. I don't know if you noticed. Big, huge change. I've lost 2 pounds. Hopefully 2 pounds of fat. I don't know. I'm not measuring muscle density, or I'm not doing the whole calipers on the love handles thing. But 2 pounds. I started at 157, and I think today I was just under 155. So that's about 2 pounds, a little more than 2 pounds. But that was to be expected. You really don't want to lose more than 1 pound a week when you're in fat loss mode. That's not incredibly healthy. You still got to eat. You can't starve your body, no matter which plan you go with for a lifestyle. You've got to feed yourself. You've got to feed your body. So having lost weight indicates to me that I'm doing well. My water consumption is still still pretty good. I wasn't eating a lot of junk before, so I went from eating a lot of animal-based products and mixed in with stuff that I'm eating now, but I wasn't necessarily eating poorly before. So it's really been a refinement in terms of a dietary choice. So I wasn't expecting dramatic changes with this. So to see the initial loss at 2 pounds, I'm pretty happy. Variations, give or take, depending on when you measure yourself, how much water's in your system, how much salt you had, yada yada yada. But 2 pounds, that's fair. So huge change. Like I can see it. No, I can't see it. That was me being facetious, just in case, there's someone out there who's a literal, just in case Drax is watching. So the next big change I wanted to cover was coffee, not just coffee consumption, but specifically eliminating heavy cream from my coffee routine has been it's been a big change, because I enjoy the flavor of coffee, specifically with heavy cream. If I don't have coffee with heavy cream, I appreciate like a cold brew more than like, let's say, a shot of espresso. And I don't know if I've quite found my coffee flavor to be perfectly tuned, and there's a question of whether or not I'm going to continue to drink coffee on a daily basis, if not regular basis, for a reason I'll get into in just a moment. I'm trying to stick to my outline, if you don't mind. And I don't think you mind, because otherwise I'd just, veer off onto a completely different path, like I'm doing right now. So I have been attenuating my caffeine intake, specifically coffee. Still making it in the AeroPress. It's still great. It's just I'm having less of it. Last night I had difficulty sleeping, and I don't know why. It was just a night of insomnia. It could be caused by a lack of caffeine or too much caffeine. But the either way, when I woke up, I said to myself, let me see if I can get through the morning without coffee. I couldn't do it. I pushed through the morning, but I was so logy. I made a little bit of coffee, added a non-dairy creamer. It's a blend of almond milk and coconut milk, but it doesn't taste the same. It never does. The viscosity of it is just so not the same as heavy whipping cream. So I drank the coffee. It was okay. It was a little nutty with the creamer. And I just, kept thinking, like, I think this is going to be my last bag of coffee that I purchased outright, just to see if I can wean myself off of coffee for a few different reasons. I don't think coffee is bad outright. I know it likely has health benefits, but if I can move myself to the point where I'm not, reliant so much upon that caffeine in the morning, I would be happier with myself. I first started to drink coffee, not because I loved it, not because I loved the flavor necessarily, but it was at a time when I was low carbing 20 years ago, and I needed to be regular, and not getting a lot of fiber in my diet back then required me to find a way to get things moving, and coffee did the trick, and so that's how I started to drink coffee, copious amounts back in the day. Not so much anymore. How far we've come. But I'm at the point where I think I'm ready to kind of retire that routine in my life, and that's largely what it's been. Beyond the buzz, I don't drink it for that, or didn't think I did. It's largely just the routine. So I'm looking to find myself in a new pattern and a new routine, and potentially try something else in the morning to just become my ritual, to replace it with that, and I'll actually be speaking to the idea of alternatives in a moment. Another big change that just came about in the last couple of days, really, is recognizing that for my goal as someone who's pursuing this path in health lifestyle, is that I want to have fat loss. I want to be able to hit a goal weight, a target weight, a healthy weight for me, but be able to maintain it so that I'm not, up and down and up and down. And so part of that, I think, is going to be in eliminating oil from my food. Apart from naturally occurring stuff, whole foods, right? Things that, if the oil is in the actual food that was made by nature, and is vegan friendly, if you can call it that, then I'd be inclined to ingest it. So that's something that came about because I did watch Mike the Vegan's video, and he surfaced so much intelligence. He's just dense with it. It's amazing. But he also cited and pointed everybody off to a various amount of resources. So you're free to draw your own conclusions. But I recognize, not just from him, but from also disconnected stories that I've read, eliminating oil that specifically comes with processed foodstuffs is a big thing if I want to achieve a weight goal and lose fat. So I am going to try to not restrict, just eliminate that. So Diana is very well aware of this, and so now she's cooking without oil, and it is possible to do. I'm eating raw stuff happily, just as happily as I might have been eating before, but recognizing, or at least cognizant, that oil may be present in products that may have a label, or even in dining out, which leads me to the next big change. Last night, we had a daddy-daughter date night, and so Jedi and I went to Sushi. We have a sushi go-around place that we've gone to a few times, and she enjoys it. It's kind of fun. But she had mentioned earlier in the day, she said, "Sushi?" And I said, "Sure." She said, "Watermelon?" Because they make these little, like, watermelon things, and they cut them up, and it's cute, and it's got a little umbrella thing with the... And so I was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." And she likes eating edamame, and I think she was eating edamame, God, I think before she could walk, she was eating edamame. So it was a good place, and yeah, sure, we'll go. So we sat down, and immediately I told the server, who I've known for, God, a decade, I said, "Okay, about a week ago, we decided to adopt a vegan lifestyle. And she kind of looked at me. I think she was confused. Like, what does that mean? No, but she said, oh, so vegetarian. I'm like, that's fine. And so I looked at the menu, and it was a slim amount of options. I had an avocado roll, a pico de gallo roll. They were both wonderful. I would eat them anyway, but normally in this situation, as I'm seeing these fish, go around on the conveyor belt, I was just stricken with this sense of, what am I doing? Do I really want to do this? Because there goes some of my favorite dishes, right? I've loved sushi since I first tried it 20 years ago, and seeing it just inches from my face, it's just so tempting. And I didn't feel the need to, just reach out and grab something and, cheat on myself, because who am I cheating? I'm cheating myself, and I'm fully aware that what it would do is set me back, and that's not something I'm inclined to do, especially knowing what I know now. So I was able to resist temptation, had dinner, and that was it was fulfilling. One of the meals, I guess mini meals, or I guess components of the meal, was a seaweed salad, and I didn't think anything of it. I was like, a seaweed salad, it's gonna have like vinaigrette and whatnot. And mind you, yesterday I was already intending on eliminating oil, not thinking that they would likely have added oil to the seaweed salad mixture and not likely have made it fresh there at the restaurant. I did some research, and it seems that I was eating something that was pretty fully processed, including artificial ingredients and high fructose corn syrup, most likely, sesame oil, or I'm sorry, not sesame oil necessarily, but potentially just vegetable oil and fats outright. And I was disappointed. I was very upset about that. I just felt like I should have known better. But, food in restaurants don't necessarily come with labels. And even if I went to let's say, a vegetarian restaurant or a vegan restaurant, they would know more than the average restaurant or wait staff might, but there's still a chance that I would get something that I didn't want. And right now, I don't want oil. I'm trying to eliminate that in every way, shape, or form, and that kind of dovetails into the idea of dropping coffee, because coffee does have oils. I may reintroduce at some point in the future, but my goal is specifically focused on a weight goal right now, a general health profile goal, and then I can start playing loose and fast with the rules, right? Not worrying so much, oh, this has oil. But if I can avoid it now, I will, right? If I see a product with or without it, I'm going to choose the one without if I do have a choice. There's no need necessarily for me to have that oil, and knowing now what it might be doing to my system, especially with the amounts that I might be taking in, I really don't want it. So I'm leaning towards not dining out as much, and I told that to Diana, and she kind of jokingly said, oh man, I didn't even get a last hurrah. I'm like, well, where do you want to go? I wouldn't deny her that, but she mentioned, she said, I really like that salad from the other sushi place. I'm like, yeah, but you can't eat it anymore, because I guarantee it's cream. I guarantee it is. And she kind of thought about it. I'm like, then what you're eating is lettuce at that point, because the dressing is amazing, but I guarantee it ain't vegan. So I think we would dine out, but I don't know where, I don't know when. I know that'll save money. Not that we've necessarily gone out to eat a lot since Jedi was born, because it is a cost, somewhat of a hassle with kids. And I think more importantly now, it just doesn't fit. It's a nice way of not having to worry about preparing and cleaning and what have you. But I don't know what I can choose. In knowing that I want to avoid oils, I don't know where I can turn. So, dining out is becoming less and less of an option. But if I'm not spending money so much on coffee, it was certainly not the cream, and weaning myself off of processed foods that may have oil in them, even if they're vegan friendly, like a lot of meat alternatives, we can save a lot of money. I mean, we earn gift cards, and that has covered a good chunk of our groceries. I'm very grateful. I've talked about them before. Go.tagjag.com/free apps and go.tagjag.com/free points. We earn these gift cards. We turn them around to pay for groceries. That's how we're eating these days, by and large. So that was just a big change that is potentially coming down the pike, thinking twice before we go out to eat. I I'm going to throw something out there that I feel is what I'm keeping my mind focused on, and that is not seeing this refinement of selection of food products as restricting. But honestly, I believe that refining my food choices is freeing. You know, the more I'm able to eliminate and not to my own detriment, I feel it's actually kind of freeing, because it's now affording me the freedom to not have to worry theoretically. This is on down the line. I don't know what's going to happen down the line. You know, to be able to achieve a weight goal, to maintain that weight goal without thinking about it. If that's what I'm able to accomplish, then you know I can't challenge any opinion to the contrary. It's somewhat freeing in being restrictive. You're able to eliminate the things that you don't need, recognizing that your body needs this. Sure, it's fun to taste this, but your body doesn't care what something tastes like. It doesn't. That's why a lot of people end up in serious trouble. You know, that's the thing you got to remember. Once it's past the tongue, it's out of your hands. Well, literally, but I mean, just because it tastes good here doesn't mean that it's going to do well in here. So I'm finding it freeing, knowing that I don't have to worry about 99% of the grocery store now. I only have to concentrate on the things that I want, and finding new patterns, and finding new things, and finding stuff that works for me, works with me. And that leads me into the point, not looking for alternatives, because, you know, I think there's a certain comfort in, let's say, looking for a coffee alternative, or looking for a hamburger alternative, or looking for this alternative, an ice cream alternative, or that alternative. And I really don't want to do that for a few different reasons. One, those alternatives tend to be very pricey. One. Two, they're not typically necessary. And three, ultimately I've discovered, and this is throughout my entire life, not just in relation to foodstuffs, but any aspect of my life, I've learned that if I try to find an alternative to something, I wind up being disappointed, because I compare it to the thing that I'm looking to find an alternative for. Like, it's not the thing that I want, or it's not the thing that I can have. And so if I compare it against something that it can't be or will never be, I'm not being fair to that thing. And so I'm not wanting to look for alternatives. It's not a thing. It's not my focus. I want to find things that work and work well. I want to drink Genmai Cha green tea because I enjoy the flavor. It's the only tea I've ever liked. Sencha leaves, roasted rice, brown rice, I believe. I know I've got some matcha that's got brown rice, like a powdered matcha. But, you know, I enjoy tea. But I don't compare coffee to tea, because it's unfair. It's, like, wildly unfair. So I am not looking for alternatives. I just want to find things that I enjoy for a different reason. And I really think that's a tenet to my direction, because ultimately I'm never going to find a coffee alternative. Never going to find a hamburger alternative. You know, I'll find something that I enjoy, but for a completely different reason. I'm finding myself not eating more or less. I have always been pretty good in terms of listening to my body, like in terms of when I'm hungry versus like nervous eating, nervous snacking. And so I had been in a routine where I just kind of knew, okay, this is at this time I'd eat this, at this time I'd eat this, but I'm in a completely different routine. I have no pattern. So I'm just listening to what my body says. Am I hungry? Am I thirsty? And then going from there. So I believe I'm roughly breaking even. If anything, I'm probably not as hungry as I might have been in the past as quickly as I was. I realize that sounds really odd, but thank God I'm just speaking instead of writing this down. I can't go back and edit. I hate video editing. That's another little secret I'm going to let you in on. That's why I like just recording live to file. They used to say live to tape, but this is not a tape. So I'm not eating more, not eating less, but I'm finding I'm less hungry. I stuffed myself silly last night at Sushi. Like 3 avocado rolls and a couple pico de gallo rolls, the seaweed salad. No, maybe it was 2 avocado rolls. They were small. the pieces. But I was stuffed. I was full. But I believe in having starches, and this is something else that I learned from Mike. I almost said Nick. Mike the vegan. He had mentioned a video like, "Are we starchivores?" And it was just fascinating. I'm like, oh my God, it makes so much sense, and now it's backed up with science, and I love it. So I'm heavily on starchy foods, you know, and that I don't think is going to change anytime soon, which is great. I mean, it fits. It just works. I'm fine with it. I'm thrilled with it. You know, I don't want a short-term pleasure if it means I'm going to have long-term pain. I've never been that kind of guy, ever, in any aspect of my life. But you know, I'm happy to know how I'm better approaching my goals, and knowing that we all actually are potentially starchivores. You got to watch his video. I just go to his channel, man. Watch all his videos. I haven't watched them all, but he's got it all. I don't want to repeat the things that he's already done, but I'm just saying I've been listening to other people too. Not just I don't just listen to one source. I'm learning not to take food for granted again, knowing that nutrition is critical. You don't realize how valuable nutrition is until you eliminate the things that aren't nutritional, or the things that aren't going to provide you what your body needs. And that, to me, again, is a freedom, right? It's a freedom from not oppression. It's a freedom from, well, kind of, right? You know, it's a freedom from the food industry, right? As an industry, right? That is trying to trap you into things that are fun, potentially, things that you know satisfy hunger, but you know, put you in a cycle of going back to an addictive product, because it's got salt, it's got sugar, it's got fats, oils, it's got things that your body doesn't necessarily need, you know, immediately, or certainly not in the long term. But you know, it's freeing in seeing nutrition for what your body needs. So I have a couple of supplements, one supplement on order specific to vegans, making sure that even now I'm covering my omega-3s, which is important for everybody. But you know, I'm getting them from flaxseed, chia seed, and that's it primarily. I'm not going to get it. I don't think I'm going to need a supplement for that. But the supplement would primarily be for B12, which I do take. I do take Bs on a regular basis anyway, or have in the past. Now it's going to become even more critical. It's like a multivitamin thing. I can't really talk too much about it because I haven't tried it yet. It's not something that you know, I can speak to. Just knowing that beyond, the only thing I can speak to is that I know I need supplements. We all probably need supplements, you know, when we reach a certain point in life. 44 years old, man. Yeah, not getting any younger. Diana is downstairs right now, seemingly interacting with Jedi. I don't know if you could hear that there, but Jedi's really been fussy as of late. I think she's going through a growth spurt. But anyway, Diana has been nudging me for a while to kind of adopt this lifestyle. And her approach has not been very effective, shall we say. And this is not to it's not to say that her heart wasn't in the right place, but the way that she was trying as intuitively as she could, it just wasn't resonating with me at any level, right? I would hear something in how she was saying it, but I couldn't accommodate it. I couldn't make it it didn't hit home, right? You know, someone might say, "Oh, sugar's not good for you." Well, yeah, okay. No, you know, like mowing on, you know, this sugar-laden product. Yeah, I know it. It's not good for me. You know, everybody's different, and everybody's going to receive the message differently. And it wasn't that she wasn't trying, and it wasn't that it wasn't for coming from a bad place. It was coming from a great place. And so I think that now that we've made this decision together, or at least I have, for me, in conjunction with how she has been feeling for a while, it's been great. It's I think alleviated a lot of stress. For her at least, and for reasons that I want her to explain. I really want to sit down with her. It's difficult to do with Jedi if she's not asleep. So that video, if we're able to do one together, talking about the process that we went through to get to the point where we were leaning vegan together, you know, I think it's something I want her to share. So stay tuned for that at some point. I have a feeling that it's a way to, you know, further solidify our relationship together. I can understand how it would be difficult if one person made a choice to have not an extreme lifestyle. That sounds bad, but in terms of changing lifestyle in such a fashion that a lot of things would be forced to change within the home, I could see how that could cause friction within a relationship, or even potentially even keep a relationship from starting. So I'm very grateful that we're, you know, finally seeing eye to eye. She didn't drag me kicking and screaming, though, but a lot of our conversations lately have been, okay, how do we do this? What should we do here? How can we do this? What about this? So a lot of our conversations have been talking about this lifestyle changes of late. So it's been a great bonding experience. I mean, it really has, because that's what we have. We have each other, and we have our health, and I look out for her, and she looks out for me. The new meals that, you know, she's thinking about are not just exciting, but for everyone. Like, you can eat a meal, and it could be a vegan meal, and you can enjoy it without being a vegan. Like, that's a thing, right? You know, if you ate a meal and you go, oh, I really like that. Well, did you know it was 100% vegan? You know, it's not some it's not some mysterious thing. It's food that you know. That's the thing. It's food that you know, or that you'll discover, and you may love the flavors. That's what I'm saying. You can eat a vegan meal without being a vegan. It's not a big deal, really. She made this wrap the other day that was just spectacular, out of this world. Without a doubt, the tastiest wrap I've ever had in my entire life. And it was just a sprouted wheat pita. That sprouted wheat is pretty much the only bread I'm eating. But you know, the Ezekiel stuff. I can't remember the exact Bible verse, but it references a specific Bible verse. But it had hummus spread on it with like ground up spinach leaves and fresh tomatoes from her parents' garden. So fresh. The tomatoes made the dish, and then, like, I think it was kind of a hard tofu, which was fortified with vitamins and minerals. But it was so amazing. The tomatoes absolutely made the wrap. Oh, it was so good. I said, man, I don't know if you can repeat this, but this is good. So it was amazing. Now that leads me into saying that we've been sharing a lot of photos and videos and experiences in social lightly. She's been sharing more of the food pictures than I have. She's usually into that kind of thing. I'm not. I tend not to, you know, look on the internet for food. She does. The idea, though, in terms of what we might share, isn't focused on creating content. We're not likely going to be sharing recipes outright or making videos about recipes, because it takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of work that you don't realize. And preparing a meal takes enough work to begin with. So unless we can figure out how to make it work, I don't know. I don't know if we're inclined on doing much more than saying, here's what we made. Like, here it is. You know, we did share with the patrons on geekfamilyfun.com the other day the recipe for the wrap. I guess Diana did. I pulled her into the chat room for that. The ChrisPirillo.com patrons aren't, I don't think, as interested in my lifestyle change, but they may be. Some of them may very well be. So no plans for recipe videos, at least, or video or recipe content at this point in time. Next week, my aim is to be starch-heavy and oil-free, underscored by, you know, what I had said before. And, you know, the only thing that, you know, I really wanted to point out in terms of your decision, whether or not you're leaning vegan or just curious, vegan curious, challenge your own convictions. Like, that's how you learn something. That's how you know you believe something for real, like in your heart. When you're forced to challenge your truths, that's how you know. And it's difficult sometimes, especially if you've believed one thing your entire life and now are faced with reality that what you thought was fact isn't, for whatever reason. So challenging convictions, I think, is a part of this process, not just for me, you know, for having grown up, you know, with non-vegan product to eat, knowing full well that, you know, animals had to, you know, go through what they went through to be able to bring us food. I'm the type of person who would have thought, well, yeah, but how else are you going to get your nutrients? Where do you think they get their nutrients? The thing that is difficult for anybody to do is to challenge what it is that they believe. So I understand that. But never stop learning. Never stop adjusting. That's not how science works. That's not how life works. I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And neither are you. Like, that would be really, really sad. Genuinely, like, that's just, you have the propensity to learn so much and adjust from there. Whether you're going to accept what you see as reality, like, because it is, like, it's just flat fact, or just continue to just dismiss it because it doesn't fit your view or the way you've always done things or your cultural upbringing. I think that is done to your own detriment, because there's so much that you could do, not just to make yourself better, but specifically to understand the world in a different way. Even if you don't, happen to, want to go down that path, you could at least understand it. And I think just opening up that idea of understanding, I think, is going to help everybody. And I think certainly helping the global community when I say everybody. But change always comes down to your own time, on your own terms. I wanted to say, along those lines, Diana did not push me over the edge, right? I'll go as far as to say the things she said had little to no impact on my decision, which I know sounds odd. Like, I am listening to her, I believe her, I trust her, but what she was putting out wasn't matching what I might have needed to be able to go a direction that she believed would be better for me, better for her, better for the family. And I don't disagree with her now. I mean, I don't. But, I had to challenge my own convictions, right? And ultimately, it was an automated recommendation. Diana didn't even, I think, know this film existed. What the Health? It was something that was mentioned in comments. What the Health did not convince me that a vegan lifestyle would be better for me. It just kind of tipped me over the edge. I was already at a point, I was on the precipice of knowing that I needed to change. I just didn't know what that change would be, how it would come about, but I knew that I was, again, frustrated with this. Not just my weight gain, but the up and down that I've had my entire life. And now I'm also concerned that at age 44, I got to start really paying attention to what's going on with my ticker, not to mention the rest of my body, right? And so I got to do everything I can to, make sure I'm not doing this and make sure I'm not worrying so much about this. And I got to worry about cholesterol levels, things that I didn't have to worry about necessarily at 20 years old. I'm like, it's way into the future. The future is now. I've got to make the change now. So I was already on that edge, and watching What the Health just kind of pushed me over the edge. Watched it on my own volition, and that was the night last Thursday that I said to Diana, "Hey, I'm just watching this film." I said, "I don't think I can do what I've been doing all this time." And I think it was a huge weight lifted from her shoulders for reasons I think she's going to describe. But I watched it independently. Other people have recommended it. It's been debunked. I watched the debunker, and let's just put it to you this way. The way that I found Mike the Vegan was watching his debunking the debunker of What the Health video. So this has turned into a huge ad for Mike the Vegan. But it's warranted. I really, like, I have a man crush. I have a vegan crush on Mike the Vegan. Beard goals, facial hair goals. I could never. What the Health is recommended. I may at some point in the future do a weekly update talking about some other films that I've watched that I've enjoyed. It's pretty obvious that What the Health has got an agenda, but I think it was well presented. I think it was very well done, and I think it's turned a lot of heads and potentially attention to something that is becoming increasingly critical. Your health, right? My health. That's all. If we don't have that, we have nothing. So I'm excited. I'm very excited about moving into week 2, especially with old glasses. These are not new glasses, if you didn't notice. I have had these glasses for a few years, but I didn't wear them because I didn't like them as much as I liked another pair of glasses with different frames. Same prescription, but I guess the way the lenses were made was different. So I wore those. I really like those frames, but the anti-reflective coating on the lenses is worn down over time. So I found myself over the past couple of weeks, not just over the past week, getting headaches at night. Not tension headaches, which I've had before back here, but more ocular driven, right? So I like eye strain, and it could be due to reading more, watching more, you know, taking all in information that I possibly can using my eyes. But I would only get these eye strain types of headaches at night, like, or into the evening. I'd start to feel it like around the same time. So to me, I hadn't made any other changes when it started. The indicator was that these lenses were really not crystal clear when I was looking through them. So that's the reason why I've switched back to the same prescription, an existing prescription, but actually they may be new to you. But if you go back and watch old vlogs, you may see me wearing these frames. They're the frames now. They're back on my face. I am curious to know, as much as I'm inclined to continue to share these updates with you, are you at all interested? I'd like to keep doing it, if only for me. You know, certainly, you know, showing patrons as well. But I'm just curious to know what you think. I was really grateful to see so much positivity from the community at large to begin with, whether they were people who had no idea I existed or people who've known me for quite some time and are happy to see this change in me. It was nice to see. It's nice to have that community support in this. I don't think I'd be posting updates, you know, daily. I'm not going to do a daily video like, well, today I did this and I had that. But weekly, I think, would suffice, because there's enough things that happen over the week in relation specifically to leaning vegan that I think you'd be interested in. So let me know where your head is at. Let me know if I can answer any specific questions. I love you. I appreciate you. But at this point, may the Force be with you.